Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It's 12 o'clock on a Sunday, which means it's time for a Q&A. This is where I take all the questions that you've asked over the course of the week and I try to answer them to the best of my ability. First of all, I am way more awake than I was last week's on Q&A when I was filming at midnight from Blackpool. I think this is going to be a really exciting one. If you've never seen a Q&A before, the idea is very simple. All the questions that you've asked, I'm going to answer. Now, you're getting my raw and filtered opinion. I have not read these beforehand. If I think a question is kind of the sort of thing that's going to need a longer answer, I'll use it as the basis for a future video at some point down the line. The other thing is you want to get your questions in by Tuesday at the latest. I'm filming this today, Tuesday at 2:30. I typically film on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. So if you want to guarantee to get your questions in, try to get them in by Monday at the very, very latest. With that being said, there's a lot of questions. This is probably going to be a long one, so I'm going to get straight into it with this week's Q&A. Okay, so the first question is from Mick Anderson, who says, can you tell me what you thought of Jack Rhodes on the final of Britain's Got Talent? Real shame he didn't win. I thought Jack was phenomenal. I thought Jack did an absolutely amazing job. Jack Rhodes, I'm a huge fan of. I interviewed him on the channel a little while ago. If you haven't seen that Talk Magic, go check it out. I think his YouTube content is great. I think he's a super nice guy. I think he's really creative. I think he's really funny, and he's a great ambassador for Magic. And honestly, I thought he was going to win. I thought that the semi-final piece was one of the best pieces of Magic I've ever seen on a Got Talent program. I thought it was brilliant. That moment where he climbs out the TV screen that he's been talking to the entire time, brilliant. I thought his audition was fantastic. I thought his audition was really clever. I love the moment at the end where he kind of goes into the, you know, the actual moment of magic happens after the judging is finished. It's amazing. The finale was great. I mean, it's a very simple premise. The lie detector's been around for years, but the way that he delivered it, the way that he presented it, and the way he performed it was very, very Jack Rhodes. And that hat with the little light bulb on, I could imagine him selling that as an item and selling an absolute ton of them to stage magicians. As a stage magician, if I had one of those, I would perform the hell out of it. I thought that the actual premise of the bowl, I'm sure I've seen him do something like that before on his YouTube channel, but that premise is incredible. He should have won. It's a shame that he didn't win. I thought he was the best act on the night, but I foresee big things happening. And he's got a tour at the moment, and he's coming to Birmingham on Halloween, the 31st of October. So I've blocked myself off of my calendar. Even if a gig comes in, I'm not taking it. I'm going to go see Jack Rhodes live. I think he's the future of Magic. Okay, so the next question is from Mick Anderson, who says, hi Craig, do you use any other coin sets other than your own? For example, Nightshade, Mirage. Have you seen anything with the Smoon set by Mark Mason? Is it a one-trick coin set? Thanks again, all the best. Right, several things to say there. First of all, my main focus is on my own coin sets, obviously, because they're my coin sets. I created them specifically for me and then shared that with other people, but the routines are designed to be the sort of routines that I would like to perform. Having said that, I do have with me like 4 coins in a shell or 3 coins in a flipper coin or something like that. So I do have other coin sets with me that I will use sporadically if I want to kind of vary it up. I have got routines that I perform that don't use you know, the Nightshade coin set or the Mirage coin set or Apparition or something like that. They just use a shell on top of some regular coins. So there is other coin magic that I do, a lot of other coin magic that I do, but I don't really use anybody else's coin sets. That's a lie, really. I'm thinking about it now. I do use a you know, copper, silver, brass set. So I do use a copper, silver, brass set. I've got a few different routines with copper, silver, brass, and I've got a few different versions of that. I've got a Todd Lassen made one. I've got a Ron Davis made one. I've obviously got the one that Matthew Wright marketed a little while ago. So I've got a few different versions of copper, silver, brass, and I've got 2 copper, 1 silver. But that's really used for a specific routine, if that kind of makes sense. Although I've learned a lot of the N2G stuff, I don't really use it in my performance. I don't really perform it. Do you count Charming Chinese Challenge as a coin set? It's just 4 Chinese coins and and a ribbon. If you count that as a coin set, then I do Charming Chinese Challenge like all of the time. I love performing that trick. As for Smoon, I do own it. I have got it. And honestly, I got it at Blackpool and I haven't looked at it yet. It's something that I do need to look at. It's something that I want to look at, but I haven't really had chance to check out the tutorial. I've been very, very busy. But it's by Mark Mason, so it's going to be great. I am going to do a review on that coming soon. So when I get time to sit down and study it, I'll give it a full review. I have a feeling it's probably going to be a bit of a one-trick pony, but I don't know. That's guesswork based on looking at the gimmicks, but I'll get back to you with a review on that as soon as I've sat down and properly digested it. Okay, so the next question is from Stephen Banks Online Marketing, who says, "Hi, Craig. As always, keep up the great work. Thanks very much. I'm a magician from South Africa who has a small kids entertainment agency that I want to expand. Besides being on the waiting list, how can I improve my chances to get a spot at the coveted gold level membership? What you have done with Non-Stop Kids is something I'm striving for. Thanks again for all you do." There's nothing really else that you can do. I think we've chatted on Discord. I am looking into this at the moment. We are opening up gold spots and you are on my radar. Honestly, you're the sort of person that I would want to work with. I want to work with people in the gold membership that kind of, it's an ongoing thing. It's not a one and you're done type situation. You know, they have a goal that they want to hit and they're prepared to put the work in to hit that goal. What I don't like is if I'm just sitting there and nothing happens week on week and it's kind of treading water. I like it when people have a bit of get up and go. And I'm lucky that all the people in the gold membership do have that get up and go. And you know, it's amazing how much that they have done and blows me away. Absolutely blows me away. Look, you're on my radar. I am aware, and watch this space. The next question or statement is from BK Studio, who says, "The Bill and Lemon you said is Doc Eason's is actually Steve Spill's. Doc Eason actually credits Steve in the video. I like both magicians." Yeah, you're right. I've interviewed Steve Spill on this channel and we talked about the Bill and Lemon and the origins. I kind of think of it as the Doc Eason Bill and Lemon routine. I refer to it as the Doc Eason Bill and Lemon routine because Doc's videos, when I first got into magic, were so inspirational to me. It was kind of his videos and Greg Wilson's videos, and maybe Scott York, were the videos that kind of set me down the path that I wanted to head down. And I ended up learning everything off Doc's videos and just loving every single second of everything that he put out there. So I kind of think of it as Doc's routine, but I know it's Steve's. But yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Okay, so the next question, which again is not a question, it's a statement, is from KP Magician ATL, who says, "Hey Craig, not a question, but I just got the Infinity deck in the mail. I was a bit bummed to find only 4.5 hours with tutorial and not 17 hours, but it'll have to do. Excited to learn material and find out the new ways of doing it. Thanks." And a shout out to Lloyd too. I think it's 6 hours altogether if you count the stuff with David Jonathan and the bonus video I did and the live performances. So hopefully that'll make things a little bit better for you. I love the Infinity deck, I really do. And the fact that people are raving about it is just making me so happy. I know it's making Lloyd so happy as well. And if you haven't already seen it, I don't know which day it is. I'm filming this on the Tuesday. And you're watching this on the Sunday, and I don't know which date it's scheduled out. I think it's Friday. But on Friday just gone, so a couple of days ago, I did a video basically showing how you can use the Infinity deck to do regular card tricks. Do card tricks like cutting the aces and ambitious card and card in the box. You can do all of that sort of stuff with the Infinity deck and really make a connection with the audience. So outside of the stuff on the tutorial, make sure you go back and watch that video because that's actually really worth watching. But thanks very much for your kind words, and I'm really glad on behalf of Lloyd Barnes that you like the Infinity deck. Okay, so the next question is Keith Runyon, who says, "Could Matt use Tricolour for his murder mystery routine, but just use the red Sharpie with the black lid, then several other regular black Sharpies? Just a thought and super stoked for season 3. Yeah, I reckon he could. I think he's really high on the Imposter. I think what he loves about the Imposter is it's very hands-off in that he can just have his hands behind his back and they can take a stick and he doesn't need to see anything. Having said that, for his birthday, The Office kind of got him a couple of things, and one of the things that we got him was Tricolour. So I expect to see that in his performing set soon. He's a very big fan of Simon Lipkin. Honestly, I think that Matt has a bit of a man crush on Simon Lipkin, and let's be honest, who wouldn't? But I know he's a big fan of Simon Lipkin, and Tricolour is absolutely amazing. So I'd love to see that make its way into Matt's repertoire, both as a close-up performer and also a stage performer. Okay, so the next question is from Dylan Williams Magic, who says, "Hi Craig, thanks for answering my questions in the last video. You're more than welcome. For this week, what advice would you give when it comes to performing magic for festivals or fairs? Also, if you have to perform outside, how do you deal with humidity and high temperatures? For example, I find it difficult to perform magic with playing cards because they get very sticky. I found out very quickly that coins, sponge balls, ropes, mentalism, even Rubik's Cubes works great when it comes to high temperatures. Thanks." You're right. Although I live in the UK and our weather is shite, there are a few days a year where it's ridiculously hot. And I do a lot of festivals in the UK. My company does even more. I do a fair amount where you're basically walking around all day performing close-up magic, right? And weather will play a factor into the routines that you're performing. I tend to find that your playing cards in really hot temperatures are going to warp if you're using card tricks or packet tricks, especially a packet trick, especially a gaff deck. It can be really annoying if you've spent like 30 or 40 quid on a gaff deck or a packet trick and then it's buggered completely because you've taken this out to a gig and it's got warped and it's unusable. That's really frustrating. So I would hold fire on the I'd hold fire when it comes to card tricks completely. So in terms of trick selection, one thing that I try to do at festivals is I typically will walk around without a jacket on because it is so hot. So I'll either walk around in a shirt and a waistcoat or walk around without a jacket, right? I'll to keep myself cool more than anything else. So because of that, pocket space is very limited. And because pocket space is very limited, I have to factor that into consideration. So what I typically do is I will take stuff that I can do multiple routines with. So Rubik's Cubes are good because I can do multiple things with the Rubik's Cube. Coins and maybe a coin shell or something like Apparition is great. Apparition is perfect because it's just one little purse and I can do so much stuff with it. 4 coins in a shell is perfect because I can do a ton of stuff with 4 coins in a shell. Nightshade is great because you can go into so many routines with Nightshade. A lot of coins. I'll have coins in both pockets. And with coins, I can do so many different routines. Typically in my back right pocket, I'll have 3 pieces of rope so I can do fiber optics. I'll also have a ring so I can go into the Dave Williamson hypering style routine, or I can go into more of a kind of Daryl style ring and string routine. So I'll try and have props double up in terms of how you're using them. That's kind of a really useful thing to do. So really think about pocket space because I think it's really important that you don't load yourself down when you're doing festivals. The other thing is try to lean into impromptu tricks as much as possible. I've said on this channel before, it's sometimes very, very difficult to get money from people because less people carry around cash. I think at least in the UK with festivals, that's not the case because when people go to a festival, a lot of the time the little stalls that are going to be dotted around don't take card. So people do make an effort to get cash when they go to a festival. So cash can be easily borrowed. So if you've got a thumb tip on you, $100 bill changes are good. Some sort of bill in marker pen works really, really well, like an impromptu one with a thumb tip and like the Richard Sanders one, Cramped I think it's called. That's a great thing to do as well. That works ridiculously well. Also, when it comes to impromptu stuff, I've talked about this before, but I'll do a metric ton of stuff with cans. So Sinful by Wayne Houchin, Fizzmaster by Paul Harris, Fizz Roulette by Sean Hayden, all stuff like that I will do absolutely 100% because people will be carrying around cans. I'll say, hey, lend me a couple of cans, I'm going to show you something amazing. So yeah, as much impromptu stuff as you can. Learn a bunch of impromptu stuff. Go watch Greg Wilson's Off the Cuff and On the Spot because a lot of the routines there will work. You can borrow coins and you can do coin magic. Greg Wilson had a routine on his on one of his DVDs where he borrowed a lipstick and the lipstick kind of penetrated through somebody's hand. I tend to do that an awful lot. Any sort of impromptu type thing, because you've got so many people here, they're going to be carrying stuff around with them. If you can do impromptu magic, it's going to double up the amount of material that you can do, if that kind of makes sense. Outside of that, what you want to do, the only other piece of advice I can give you when it comes to perform magic for festivals is make sure that you adapt what you do to the group of people that you go up to. So when you go up to young kids, great, you're going to be doing some kid stuff, but don't make it too kiddie, because if you do, any teenagers or adults aren't going to want to watch you because they're going to think you're a kids entertainer. Even if you've been booked at a family festival and they say perform for the kids, you want to make sure that your act is something that everybody wants to see, even the teenagers and the cool kids. And if you're dressed in a, if you're dressed as like a traffic light and you're there going ha 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 and you're hitting yourself in your face, you're not going to be able to approach anyone else other than the kids. So try to make it so that the type of magic that you do and the approach that you do and the way that you're dressed is conducive to attract every type of audience and not just kids. Excuse me, if that makes sense. And then just make sure that don't spend too much time with one group of people. There's normally at festivals a lot of people to get round. So I kind of go down the hit and run style of magic. I'll perform, spend 5 minutes, go to somebody else. If you spend too long with one group, you end up doing a massive cabaret show. You'll have like a group of about 40 or 50 people around you, which sounds cool, but a lot of the time the organisers don't want that because you're there walking around. They want people to kind of watch some of the other stuff that they might have on. But in all honesty, that's a conversation that you want to have with the organizer beforehand. Find out exactly what they expect from you at this gig so that you make sure that you can deliver exactly what they need. So hopefully that helps, and that's covers what to do at a festival. Okay, next question is from Magic James Higground. Reading this, it looks like it's a piece of advice for somebody who asked a question last week. I'm going to read it out because it's probably something that everybody would like to hear. To Elkie about self-esteem, magic is for everyone. But if it were easy, everyone would do it. Very good. So if you're doing it, by definition, you're not shit. I struggle too with validating myself or accepting compliments. It helps me to think of what I show to others as my gift to them. Phrase it that way. Could I gift you with some magic, or can I share this magic with you? And then allow their most likely positive reaction and feedback to be focused on validating you instead of that juvenile ego voice in your head trying to convince you to give up. Let the audience inform your skill level, not your critical inner monologue. Just my take on the same situation. Very, very, very good advice. And I love the fact that there's so many people that subscribe to this channel and comment on this channel that are so much smarter than me. So thanks, James. That's very profound. Okay, so the next question is from David W., who says, great advice on corporate gigs. Thank you. You're more than welcome. A question for this week. I've had a residency for the last 3 months. Magic has gone down a storm, but the restaurant could be doing more to let people know I'm going to be there. They told me at my last gig they want to take a break over the summer and bring me back at Christmas when they're busy. They have recently laid off their bar manager because they can't afford to pay him. I'm worried they're wanting to move me on, but they're just being polite. I've had great reviews, great footage, and great leads from this residency, so I'll be sad to lose it, and also dreading the slog of getting a new one set up. Maybe a sign of the times. Any advice would be welcome. All I can say to you, David, is this is going to happen. You are going to get yourself into situations where you have residencies, you lose residencies, you get new residencies, you lose them. Because here's the thing, and this is what a lot of magicians don't realize. A restaurant taking on a restaurant magician, they have to look at it as, it's a cost at the end of the day. It's going to be very expensive. And you need to make sure that when you're in there, you're covering those costs. Not just covering those costs, but really you need to be bringing money in order to make it effective. And Michael Eaton has talked about this on various different places over the years. And he's a very smart cookie when it comes to this sort of thing. But the biggest piece of advice I can give you is, look, I've had residencies that have lasted for years, for decades, and I've had residencies that have lasted for a month or two. You have to understand that residencies come and they go. And if you are, it looks like this reading between the lines, if they've laid off their bar manager, I'm thinking that they like you. They obviously like you with the reviews and everything that they've had. But if they've laid off their bar manager, they're going to be struggling financially. They just are. And it would be insane for somebody to lay off their bar manager and keep the restaurant magician on. Now, I firmly believe that they like you, and I firmly believe that they want to bring you back at Christmas, because they're probably thinking, well, Christmas is going to be busy. A lot of the time in the summer, it's less busy for bars unless they're in a tourist area, because people are going away on holiday or whatever the case may be. I firmly believe they want to bring you back. Whether or not they do very much depends on their financial situation at the time. But just always focus. What you should be doing, if restaurants are part of your marketing strategy, if part of your income is restaurant magic, you need to be constantly pushing for that next restaurant, because you never know when you're going to lose one. I'll tell you a little story. So when I first started doing this professionally, full time, I was working market stalls. And I was getting up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, going to a market stall, selling magic, going to another one. And I eventually got a restaurant. And off the back of that restaurant, I got friendly with the restaurant manager, and he became an area manager, and he put me in like literally about 15 or 16 restaurants. I was doing restaurants every night of the week. Monday I was doing a restaurant, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I think 3 on a Saturday, 2 on a Sunday. I was just working all of the time in restaurants, making really good money, because he basically just rang up all of the people in his area and said, hey, you need a magician. Boom. And so I stopped doing the market stalls. I stopped doing that. I stopped focusing on building my business, my website. I stopped worrying about generating SEO or generating leads. I was just like, I don't need it. I'm just doing all these restaurants. What's the point? And that was all good for about a year. And after about a year, he left and went into something else. He went to a different company, and new restaurant managers came in. And literally within a month, systematically, one by one, every single one of these restaurants said, oh, we're not going to use you anymore. Because the thing is, when a new area manager comes in, or when a new restaurant manager comes in, they want to be showing that they can make changes. They've normally been brought in and they want to make a good impression. And one of the ways to do that is to reduce costs, to increase profit, reduce expenses. And they will look, and they will be coming into this restaurant for the first time, and they'll go, well, the easiest way to do this is just to cancel the magician, because I don't see what value he's providing. They haven't been there. They haven't read the reviews. They haven't seen the audiences freaking out about your performances. They've just come into this restaurant and they've just gone, you know what, let's get rid of this guy. This is $300 a night that we can save. That's $1,200 a month that we can save not having a magician. And that's how they look at it. And you have to understand that unless you get like a family restaurant, where that they're owned by a couple, it's very unlikely that you're going to have a restaurant for years and years and years, because they are constantly looking at that bottom line. They're constantly looking at, well, what can we do to make sure that this magician is worth paying, because if they're paying you every single week and they see that money going out, if they're not seeing a return of their investment, eventually they're going to cut ties. They just are. So there's nothing really you can do about it. You just do the best possible job that you can do. As I say, you might want to check out some of Michael Eaton's stuff. He talks about how you can set up couponing systems and how you can actually show the restaurant how you can add value and how you are worth more than what they're paying you. And that's one way to do it, absolutely. My attitude is constantly be looking for new restaurants. Constantly, as part of your working week, go out there and be selling yourself, because then you're never going to be in that situation. When I lost all of my restaurants overnight, I was so stressed out. I literally went to zero income almost overnight, and I had nothing else. I had no way of making money at all, because I hadn't been trying to get gigs because I was so busy doing restaurants. And I vowed to myself I was never going to put myself into that situation again, and I never did. I constantly just looked at different ways of making money, and that's what you need to do when you're running a business. You need to have lots of different income streams. Right, okay, so I've got this coming in from here, I've got this coming in from here, I've got this coming in from here. Right, okay, so this restaurant brings in this area of my business brings in this area of my business brings in this. I still do that now. We've got lots of different aspects and avenues when it comes to bringing money into the company. So just constantly be going out there trying to get more restaurants, but at the same time focus on other stuff as well. So it shouldn't just be about restaurants. That should be one aspect of your business that you run. Okay, Robbie Mayer says, I love that you talked about assisted living and dementia patients. Thanks, Craig, for all your awesome advice. You are more than welcome, Robbie, and I hope it helped. Okay, so the next question is from Noel Overley, who says, hi, Craig. My question is about the effect Triumph. When it comes to the reveal of the spectator's card, would you say the effect is stronger when their card appears face up in a face down deck? So when their card appears face up in a face down spread, or if their card appears face down in a face up spread? Or how about just after you show the deck in a mess, you give the spectator the choice by asking face up or face down and proceed with the reveal? Thanks for all you do to the Magic community. It's really down to you. I have a deck of cards. It's really down to you. This is not a full deck, but then again, I've not played with a full deck for years. It's really down to you and down to what you think is best, which may sound like a cop-out, but it's very, very true. Let's just say that the card is the Six of Clubs. So let's just say that they've picked the Six of Clubs. Let's just do a simple Triumph here. So we take the cards and we cut half the cards face up and half the cards face down, and we shuffle them face up into face down. So we've got all these cards face down. We've got all these cards face up. There you go. You can see that they're going face up into face down. Look at that. Some cards back to face, some cards face to back, back to face. As I continue to cut, they continue to get more and more mixed up. Right, I'm done. I'm set up ready for the reveal. So the first option is, it depends on how you want out the reveal. If you spread it this way and you show that they've all sorted themselves out except for that one card, that's great, but there's no mystery about it. It depends on what you want. If you're doing like walk around and you've got like hundreds of people around you and you've got to get around as many people as possible, you don't have time to build up that magic moment. You want to hit them and hit them hard. You want to do routines that are just going to be really direct. Like sudden deck, boom. Look, the cards change color, boom. Look at this. One card's turned over. That's when I kind of have that sort of reveal. If you have more time, if the audience is invested in your performance, if you've got like 5 or 10 minutes, maybe it's a close-up show, maybe it's a parlor show, maybe it's a house party and you're sitting down at a table and doing a bunch of routines, having this sort of moment where you go, look, one card has now sorted itself out. One card and one card only. This is the only card that's sorted itself out. What's the name of your card? Six of Clubs. How amazing is that? So that's that. Now, I've always done a Four of a Kind production at the end of a Triumph. And the reason I've always done that is because I've always wanted to have an extra ending. I like Triumph as kind of a second trick, but I like to go into a Four of a Kind thing. So I've always done a Four of a Kind production, which you can learn off the Netrix, or it's on my, I've got a really great handling on my Penguin Live. So if you haven't seen my Penguin Live, I do a version of that there. But let's just say that you've got yourself into a situation where there's one card, it's a king, and you know it's a king, right? So you know what the card is that they've picked, and there's one card turned over in the middle of the deck, and they think it's all mixed face up into face down. For me, this is the perfect opportunity to do a cull. Even if you're not very good at culling, it's a great time to practice the cull, because you have a reason to spread through your cards. Right? So you're going to spread through the cards. You say, look, if I snap my fingers, all the cards turn face up. But I want you to watch and see if you can see your card. And so now you have a reason to spread through the cards because you're showing they're all face up. And you have a reason to spread slowly because you want them to see if they can see your card. Now I'm culling the first king. Now I'm culling the second king. And then when they see that face down card, I push it forward. I'm still culling the kings. There's the third king. And I say, do you see your card yet? And they say no. And I say, hold your hand out for me. And they do. And I show them this final king, right? But now I've got those other three kings on top of the deck. And as I say, it's a great way to practice the cull. Because if you don't manage to cull the kings, you've still got the revelation of the Triumph, which is a great revelation. But if you do manage to cull the kings, which isn't too hard, and it allows you to practice it in a real life situation where if you mess it up, it doesn't matter because you've still got a revelation. But if you do manage to cull it, you've got a great second finale, because especially if you use a shuffled deck and you have them shuffle the cards at the beginning and you have them pick the card and you have it all shuffled face up into face down, when you've got to this point and you say turn over the card, was that your card? It was. You can now steal those other 3 kings off. So now I've got a 4 of a kind here, which I'm holding as 1 card, and I focus attention over here. I say, but the thing is, there's another 3 kings in this deck that you shuffled. If I told you I could shuffle the deck with 1 hand, if I told you I could cut the deck with 1 hand, and with 1 hand I could find the other 3 kings, would that be good? Yeah? But what about with this hand over here? And boom, now you've got this 4 of a kind production that you've just appeared out of nowhere over here, and now you can go into any routine that requires a 4 of a kind because you've done that from a shuffled deck. And I go through my personal handling of doing that on my Penguin Live. But the point is, I always do, generally, unless it's a hit and run situation, I always do the card face down, because that's going to allow me to do that cull. So I know that that's a 6, so it's going to allow me to show that all the cards are facing the right way. I haven't even found a 6 yet. I guarantee there's not one in here. I've got a 6. This is not a full deck. There's only 1 6 in there. So I culled the 1 6. There you go. But there's 2 6s. There's not the other 2. But that should, that should hopefully answer your question there. So yes, face up or face down works, but I would suggest face down because it builds up that moment of magic, and it also allows you to get an extra moment of magic at the end of the routine. Okay, so the next question is Jonah Berg, who says, do you think that the most impressive card tricks you can do is with an ordinary deck of cards? Because I feel like people can tell if you're using a gaff deck because they can't shuffle the cards, or maybe you're handling them weirdly. I think you're thinking like a magician, to be honest, Jonah. I think that there's some incredible gaff decks out there. I've put a lot of work into gaff decks over the years. It's something that I enjoy doing. And if you're handling the deck and you're having spectators turn around to you and go, I think that's a special deck of cards because you're handling them weird, I think that is more, that says more about the fact that you need to kind of go back to basics with that deck and figure out why audiences are thinking that. Because if you're getting an audience that's turning around to you and saying, I want to shuffle the cards, I can't, if I can't shuffle the cards, that's a special deck, or, you're handling those cards weirdly, that's a special deck. I think you need to work on your presentation a little bit. I think you need to work on your engagement with the audience a little bit. I think you need to kind of worry about that more than the deck that you're using, because honestly, I've used so many gaff decks over the years. My opener in Parlour, if you've ever seen my Penguin Live, is a gaff deck. It's a modified invisible deck. And I've never had anyone say, well, hang on a minute, that looks a bit suspicious. Are you going to get hecklers? Yes. Are you going to go into a performing situation where people are hostile and they want to try and trip you up? Yes. But that is very, very rare. It's few and far between. If you're getting that all the time to the point that you feel that people can tell that you're using a gaff deck because of what they say to you, I think you need to really seriously think and video yourself. Do a trick with a gaff deck and then do a trick with a regular deck and ask yourself a question. Can you see a difference with how you're handling the gaff deck versus the regular deck? And if you are, then don't. And if you're not, then you're worrying too much about it and you're thinking like a magician. Or if people are saying this over and over again, then maybe you need to be a little bit more you need to work more on engaging with that audience so that they're not being so confrontational, or you need to figure out where you're going because you're obviously coming across some very hostile audiences. My attitude is I owe it to my audience to do the best possible job that I can do. And I hate purists. I hate people that go, well, you should only use a regular deck of cards because then you're a pure magician. Gaff decks are cheating. What? I owe it to my audience to do the best possible job that I can do. Now, if the best possible job involves using a regular deck of cards, brilliant. The best I'll talk about Triumph because we've just done Triumph. I do a whole bunch of different versions of Triumph. I love Triumph. But the best version of Triumph that I can do, flat out, the absolute best version of Triumph I can do, is with a cheek-to-cheek deck, and I put it on my Project Cheeky. It's a gaff deck. There is no better way of doing a Triumph than using Cheeky, by using a cheek-to-cheek deck. There's no better way. It's why when Jasper Cherry asked me to work with him for his performance on All Stars for America's Got Talent, and he went out and he did All Stars in Los Angeles, we created a Triumph that used the cheek-to-cheek deck, because I said to him, this is going to be on national TV. The cameras are going to be burning you. You want that situation where you can show the cards are being shuffled face up into face down. There's absolutely no better way of doing what you want to do than with a cheek-to-cheek deck. So that's just one example. That's just Triumph. The best version of Collectors, I do a bunch of different versions of Collectors. The best version of Collectors I do involves the superimposed deck. And it goes on and on and on. So don't worry too much about using gaff decks, because honestly, it's not something that you need to worry about. Okay, so the next question is again from Jonah Berg, who says, when are you going to do the next love and hate review where you talk about what you love and hate in Magic? You haven't done it in a while. I'm changing things around an awful lot. I'm constantly adding new sections, bringing sections out, putting sections in. You know, I've just done the Katie test again. I haven't done the Katie test for a few weeks. I'm sure I'll do a love and hate list at some point in the future. The video I've got going up on Monday is it's a 5x5, but it's all about stuff that's annoying me in the Magic community at the moment. But I'm not doing rants anymore. I just want this to be a very positive experience for absolutely everybody and anybody. So I'm not doing rants anymore. If you're looking for rants, then you're on the wrong channel. I kind of not interested in that anymore. But things change, things vary. You know, I'm planning another one of those creative lessons for next week. I'm doing another chat with Matt. You know, we've got so many sections and so many video ideas that we have here that, you know, if I did them all at once, I'd end up just sitting in front of a video camera constantly filming stuff. So I kind of have to vary it up. So it'll come back at some point, but I don't know when. Okay, so the next question is MBCX9TS2, who says, hi Craig, what would you do if you were unable to read what somebody had written on a billet after trying to peek a word using the center tear? The billet is now torn up to try to make it look like that isn't part of the method. What would I do if somebody had... So if somebody's written on a billet and I've done a center tear and I can't read it, what would I do? It's a great question. Well, it's a question that you'd kind of have to think about beforehand. I did a video on this recently, which is how to make sure that you never screw up a magic trick. And one of the points I made is think through every single routine you do, think about what could go wrong, and then come up with a solution to that problem before the problem actually occurs. Because in a stressful situation, we don't make good decisions. So how do you make sure you make a good decision in a situation that's very stressful? By making the decision before the decision has to be made. If you kind of think to yourself, right, okay, in a center tear, what could go wrong? Well, what could go wrong is I couldn't read the writing on there. So what am I going to do? You think about that beforehand, you come up with a solution. If you can't come up with a solution, drop the routine. There's thousands of routines there that you can do. There's thousands of different ways of achieving the same routine. Don't use the center tear. Use something else that is guaranteed to work 100% of the time. But think about it beforehand is the important thing that I would say. Now, having said that, the other thing to consider, or what you would actually do in this situation, and I'm literally thinking off the top of my head, the first thing is it very much depends on your character as a performer. And what I mean by that is, I'll give you a perfect example. So I've talked many, many times on this channel about Nemid Phoenix. I think that Nemid is one of the best magicians in the world today. I just do. I am so high on Nemid, it's ridiculous. And I'm very lucky that he's a very close friend. And we were doing a cabaret show over a year ago now, and he'd put this new mind reading routine together that he was doing for the first time. It was in a theatre, it was in front of a couple of hundred people. He'd never done it before, and it involved peeking information on billets. Now, if you've never seen Nemid perform, he's a very naturally comedic performer. Even when he's doing mind reading, it's all very, very funny. You buy into his character. You can't take it too seriously. He is hilarious, right? The reason I tell you that is because he got himself into a position where he couldn't read what somebody had written down. And he could tell the story better than me because he was trying to guess at the thing. He made it very, very funny with what he was saying. But my favourite line that I think I've heard anyone ever say on stage, he'd completely failed in this trick. It had gone completely tits up. He'd not been able to read this word at all. I think like she'd wrote down Jan or something. I can't remember. But anyway, he just looked at the audience deadpan and he says, sometimes mind reading needs a stronger pair of spectacles. And he just put his glasses back on and he just carried on. And it was hilarious. It brought the house down. And the important point here is the audience only thinks that a trick going wrong is an issue if the trick going wrong is an issue to you. If he'd gone on stage and he'd messed it up and he'd just gone, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I've been doing this for 30 years and I can't believe I screwed it up in front of you, that would have been a very difficult situation. But he made light of it, he made a joke of it, he made it funny, people laughed, and he carried on. And it almost, speaking to people afterwards, they just thought it was a comedy routine and it was doing everything for a laugh and it was just a joke thing. And they didn't realize that he genuinely messed the trick up. And I think that's the important thing. People don't know what the trick is going to be. We talk about this before, but I think sometimes magicians forget. The audience doesn't know what the trick is meant to be. So because the audience doesn't know what the trick's meant to be, it means that you can change the trick around on the fly. If you're doing a trick where Ryland did it the other day. He was supposed to be doing Haunted Balloon, and he forgot to set the gimmick for Haunted Balloon. He had the Haunted Balloon on stage, in a box, ready to do it. It got to the point where he was doing Haunted Balloon, and he realised the gimmick wasn't set. But luckily, he had thought about this beforehand, and he had in his back pocket his backup plan. And his backup plan was a thumb tip with a spike coming out of it, a drawing pin coming out of it in another thumb tip. So he just reached into his back pocket, he had this spiky thing, he took the balloon, he was like, concentrate on the balloon, and it popped. It's a different trick. It's not the trick he wanted to do, but he was able to get through it because the audience didn't know what the trick was going to be, and he'd thought through what would happen beforehand if something had gone wrong and how to fix it. So that's kind of important. You need to take your character into consideration. Now, all that being said, if I was in a situation where I'd written down something and it's difficult without thinking it through ahead of time, but you genuinely can't get the information from there, I'd probably go into a one-ahead style thing. And what I'd probably do is I'd say, rip, right, so you've got that name right there, and I have no idea what that name is. Is that correct? And they go, yes. I'd take out 2 business cards. I don't have business cards, but let's just say these are business cards. So I'd take out 2 business cards, and I'd say, fantastic. Now I want you to do something as well. I want you to think of an emotion. And I want it to be an emotion that relates to this person's name. So I want you to take this deck of cards, they've all got different emotions on them, evoke, and I want you to go spread through them, and when you find an emotion that you feel when you're looking at that name, cut it to the face. So they cut it to the face, they show that emotion, they take that emotion, I take the balance back, and I'm reading the cards on evoke, so I know what the emotion is. Let's say it's excitement, for example. Let's say it's excitement. They show the card to the person over there, and they're thinking of that emotion. And you go, fantastic. Put the card away, put the cards away, put them in your own pocket. I don't want to see them. So now you're thinking of an emotion I couldn't possibly know. You're thinking of a name I couldn't possibly know. Right, let's start off with the name. And I'd take the first business card and I'd write down the emotion, so excitement. And I'd say, right, I've committed myself right now. What was the name? And let's say the same was John Smith. You go, okay. And I couldn't have known that, could I? No. Now we're going to do this with you. Think of the emotion. I couldn't know that emotion. You went through, my back was turned, I didn't see anything. The cards are in your pocket. There's no way I could know. This is an emotion that you feel about this person. It's very personal to you, and it's now being shared with you. Let me concentrate, and I'd write down John Smith, and I'd put this here. And I'd say, right, okay, we're done. We're done. We're absolutely done. You've got an emotion. You've got a name. I couldn't know anything. I wrote down my decisions right ahead of time before you'd even done anything, before you even told me anything. What was the emotion? Excitement. What was the name of the person again? John Smith. And I turn it around and it's an actual match. I've got John Smith and I've got excitement. So that's probably what I would do. It very much depends on the performing situation. It very much depends on the routine structure that's got you to that point there. But one ahead is your friend. I actually think when it comes to mentalism, one ahead is the best way to get out of it. The one ahead to mentalists, in my opinion, is a little bit like the invisible deck to card magicians. You lose that card, you have no idea what that card is, the invisible deck's always going to get you out of problem. For me, the one ahead is always going to do the same thing for a mentalist. So there you go. Hopefully that wasn't too long a waffly answer, and it answers everything that you wanted to know. Okay, so the next question is from Hugo Van Amersfoort, who says, Craig, you're not shit. Thank you. Just honest. We're all shit. Some of us just make more effort at hiding it. And if I had a magic company, I'd gladly accept you as the face of the company. And I guess Peter Nardi already does so without advertising it. Thank you very much. I appreciate those kind words. And I'll try to remind myself in the future that I'm absolutely not shit. Michael, can you put a graphic on the screen? Big and bold. Craig Petty is not shit. Okay, so the next question is from Divishan Magician, who says, have you ever done tricks like Silk to Egg, 20th Century Phantom, Too Hot to Handle, etc.? And someone said, I've seen this before on BGT. If so, what was the funny answer you gave? Divishan, I have never, ever had anybody ever say to me, I've seen that before on BGT. Because honestly, people don't remember. I had this conversation with Ryland the other day. Ryland was watching Trixie in the semi-final. And he did a trick with a calculator that was very similar to Toxic Plus. And I do Toxic Plus in my act an awful lot. And Ryland turned around to me and he said, well, you're not going to be able to do Toxic Plus anymore, are you? I went, why not? He said, well, he's done it. I said, that makes no difference, Ryland. And he went, why not? And I said to him, right. 2 years ago, you were on Britain's Got Talent. In the semi-final that you were in, bearing in mind you were hanging out with them backstage, the other acts, can you name any other act that was on BGT on the semi-final that you were on? And he could name like one, maybe two. I was like, how about last year? We all know Killian was in the final because we're friends with Killian, right? And we all know the guy that won, but I bet you can't remember his name. And I bet you can't remember anybody else that was in the final last year. And I bet you can't remember what they did. Hell, I can't even remember what was done in the semi-finals. I probably at this point can't even remember what was in the final. I remember what the magicians did because I'm into magic. I'm a magician, but I can't remember what anyone did. But I definitely can't remember what Magic Acts did 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I can't remember every Magic Act that came out on BGT. But the thing is, I'm a magician. I can't remember any of the acts on Britain's Got Talent. Your average punter, your average layperson isn't going to see... let's take Silk to Egg, for example. They're not going to see Silk to Egg and go, well, actually, Mr. Magician, I seem to remember a young lad, about 14 years old, called Jasper Cherry, that performed this in 2018. And because he performed it in 2018, why are you performing it now? Like, it's never going to happen, Divishan. It's never, ever going to happen. And there's a lot of things to worry about when you're performing magic. This should never be one of them because people are not going to remember what they've seen. Honestly, the public, their attention span is fickle. Within 6 months, they're going to forget everything about everything that was seen on this TV show. They just will. It's just a fact. They won't even remember who was in the final. They probably won't even be able... I can't tell you who won the finals for most of the beach. I remember who won this year because it's just happened. I couldn't tell you her name because she's a singer. I don't really care too much about singing. Can't remember her name. Can tell you second place because he's a magician. The year before, I remember it's Vigo Venn because I looked it up for Ireland. The year before, I couldn't even tell you who won. I wouldn't even know. Not a clue. Not a clue. Absolutely not a clue. And that was the year Ryland was on. So please don't worry about it. There's no point in me saying to you, what's a funny answer to give? Because you're never going to need it. And if you are needing it, there's something going wrong. It's going back to the question that I had from the other person. Focus on your presentation. Make the trick unique to you. True story. Ryland used to do in his show an awful lot milking light bulb. The TCC milking light bulb. And then when Killian did it on his audition, Ryland stopped doing it because he was like, well, I don't want people to think I'm copying Ryland. I'm copying Killian. And I said, people aren't going to think that. And he's like, oh, no, I don't think people will. People don't. They don't. But I told him to change it around then. So now he does orange juice in light bulb. And he does this whole routine where the orange juice is vanishing and it's appearing in a thing, and then it's vanishing from there and it's appearing in a light bulb. And it forced him to change the way that he performed the routine and make it more unique to him. So if you are having an issue like that, think about how you can make it different to you. Look into, you talk about 20th Century Phantom. I can't even remember who did 20th Century Phantom. Who did it? Was it Richard Jones? I don't know. I have no idea. Honestly, please don't worry about it. Just make it unique to you and you'll be fine. Okay, so the next question is from Nick Magic, who says, "Hi, Craig. Hope you're well and recovered from the late night Q&A in Blackpool." Yes, my friend. Thank you very much. So I love the solid cup, but TCC only sells the brass cup, and I got the silver cups last year. Do you know a source of where to find a solid silver cup? I seem unable to find one at the big dealers. Not many dealers sell solid cups. TCC do. You might want to contact them about, they did do a solid silver cup at one point. I don't think I've seen them do one for a while, but they did do at one point. You might want to contact them about that. The other place is... and I feel dirty even suggesting this because the guy hates me and he trolls me all over the internet. But Jacob Jr., Airship Magic, they make solid cups as well. And they've got a few different versions. They've got wood versions. They've got lots of different versions. And they make custom projects as well. So if you're wanting one out of silver, you might want to contact Jacob Jr. at Airship Magic and just say to him, look, I'm after a silver solid cup. Can you help me? And he might be able to help you. Outside of that, just contact TCC. But do whatever you can to get one, because honestly, the solid cup is such a strong routine and virtually nobody's doing it, and it's well worth learning. Okay, so the next question again is from Nick Magic, who says, you mentioned to do another how to deal with hecklers video. As you already gave your advice, I'd like a 5x5 or a talk magic of some of your friends and Netrix instructors on how they deal with hecklers, such as Nemid Phoenix, Wayne Goodman. Get them to tell a story of their experience, how they dealt with the issue. Maybe that's a lot to be asked, but it'd be great because you're all awesome. But the issue is the hecklers get more these days, or more pronounced. Don't know why. That's a great idea. I'm going to put a video together. I'm going to contact some of my friends in Magic, and I'm going to ask them how they deal with hecklers. I actually think that might be a nice ongoing video series. So look out for that, but that's a really good idea. Thank you very much for giving me that, Nick. Okay, so the next question is from Ian Walton. Hey, Ian, I hope you're well, buddy. Great video as always. It's what Sundays were made for. Thank you. I have the Orphic Plus, the FPS wallet, the FPS Purse, and the Quiver Plus. I love all of them, but I have the distinct feeling that that you combined with Alakazam, combined with the Land of Leather, could be the recipe for the greatest wallet and purses of all time. Have you ever thought about creating your own wallet? I would love to see what your devious and genius mind could come up with. In your video, you're always searching for something you're not sure what it is. Perhaps that's a bit of Craig Petty magic that's missing. Watch this space. That's all I'm saying. Watch this space. This time next year, your question will be answered. That year's time. Ian, watch this space. I'm trying to be cryptic. I don't know if it's working. Watch this space, Ian. In a year's time, your question will be answered. A wallet is coming. The greatest wallet of all time. I've said enough. Just watch this space. Okay, so the next question is from Subataman, who says, not a question, more of a video request. It'd be great to see a video of how good Tommy Cooper was at actual Magic. Good idea. I've got a big Tommy Cooper video coming soon, and I will make sure that I address that as part of the video. Okay, so the next question is from Dave Kardaki, who says, hi Craig, thanks for answering my question sometime back on Keymaster and coins across structuring, and thank you. Now I'm using some of those ideas you gave me. You're more than welcome. My question for this week would be how you would explain the finding of words and colours on Chroma such that it's easy to understand, because sometimes people don't know what they should do because there is a word of the colour and the colour itself, which is confusing. You are right, it is very confusing if you don't make it very clear. The way I think that you make it clear is by getting them to understand what a Stroop test is. So my presentation for Chroma is, hey guys, I'm going to show you something using one of these cards. If you have a look at it for a minute, this is designed to do a Stroop test. Now, I don't know if you've heard of a Stroop test before. It is a way of testing cognitive ability, basically to see how intelligent you are. I've got a feeling you, sir, are going to be incredible at this because you have one of those intelligent looking faces. Here's how it works. You're going to see there's a whole bunch of colours written on there, but also you're going to see that all of those colours that are written on there are printed in different colors. So you can see the color red, and it's written in red, but it's also written in black, it's written in blue, it's written in green, and you've got that with a whole bunch of different colors. There's loads of colors on both sides, and that's how a Stroop test works. For example, if I said to you, find all of the reds or read out all of those colors down there. And I actually get them to do this, read all the colors down there, but I want you to read them and not read the word, but read the word that the color is printed in. You'll find that quite difficult because your brain wants to read the writing and you find it very hard to actually tell people what the color is. And so that's how this cognitive ability is tested. So we're going to try and do something here. What I want you to do is I want you to think of a color on this card, but not a color. Think of one of the colors that is written down. So don't look at the colors, look at the actual words. Okay, can you do that for me? Brilliant. Now I'm going to hit start on my timer on my phone, and we're going to see how quickly you can do this, and this is going to tell us how intelligent you are. So you're thinking of a color, is that correct? Brilliant. Right, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to look for that color, but printed in black. Tell me when you've got it. And that's how I do it. And I say, now look for that color printed in red. And that word printed really helps, and making people understand right at the denouncement, right at the beginning, making them understand how the premise works and what a Stroop test is and the purpose of it, then people tend to find it a little bit easier to follow. So hopefully that helps. But if you want more clarification, let me know. Okay, so the next question is Yuri, who says, hi, Craig, how you doing? I'm very well, thank you. Question, do you have any tips or ideas of what to do with old decks that are collecting dust in my drawer, aside from practicing torn and restored effects? I tend to keep them in a big drawer, and when I'm creating magic, I'll go to that drawer for something, because a lot of the time I'll create something and I'll be like, right, okay, I'm going to need 7 6 of diamonds for this, and I'll be hunting and I can't find them, or I'm going to need 4 6 of clubs for this, or I'm going to have to write on the back of 50 cards. And as I'm coming up with material, I'm always kind of trying to need extra cards that I haven't got, so I have to end up cracking open a fresh deck and just using 3 or 4 cards on there. So I have a big, like, IKEA thing, and it's just filled full of old cards that I fetch and I need as and when I need them. And they're also useful if I'm learning new tricks or I'm learning things out of books, and it's like, right, get yourself this, this, and this. I can just go through there and I can take it out from that sea of cards. So that's what I tend to do with them. You can use that old gag, which is kind of funny, where you get yourself a big, massive bag, take a load of folded up cards and put them in there. And it's great for cabaret. You've got this see-through bag in your case, and you walk out and you go, I've got a folded up card here. And you walk out with one folded up card. You say, I've got a folded up card here. You, sir, can you name a card for me? Any card that you want to. I've got this folded up card. Name any card. And they go, whatever, 6 of diamonds. And you look at it and you take your bag with all of your folded up cards and you throw it in there and you go, one day that's going to work. One day. Now you can actually turn that into a trick, but that's actually a really funny gag to do on stage, just as a gag. But yeah, that's what I tend to do with it. Okay, so the next question, again from Yuri, says, I've been hooked on this podcast lately that you might have heard of before, Desert Island Tricks. They're constantly inviting big-name magicians, and I was wondering if you would ever consider joining the podcast for an episode, because I'm dying to know what tricks you'd pick. Now, that Desert Island Tricks is part of the Alakazam lineup. It's Jamie who does that as part of Alakazam. Who now works with Alakazam, and he's a great guy, very creative. Pete's been asking me from day one. Pete and Jamie have been asking me from day one to do that podcast. I've said I'm going to do it for them live when I go up there. So I'm going up there in July to film a few projects for upcoming releases, and I'm going to be doing that there. I'm going to be doing that podcast. So yeah, around about July, August time, you'll hear me on there. I'm definitely doing it. I'm just waiting till I'm in Ashford so I can do it live. Okay, so the next question is from Yuri again, who says, do you know any good sources to learn pickpocketing and tricks with pickpocketing? Look at some of the Greg Wilson stuff. He goes through some basic, simple pickpocketing. Greg Wilson is great. Also, have a look at James Brown. James Brown is one of the best pickpocketers I know. Also, Lee Thompson is exceptional, especially at theatrical pickpocketing. All 3 of those guys are amazing. They've all got tricks and projects and routines out. Penguin Magic do like an art of pickpocketing DVD that I seem to remember was quite good. It's well worth looking at that as well. James Friedman, the Man of Steel, is one of the best pickpockets you'll ever see. I'm not too sure what books he's got out, but you definitely want to go see him lecture. His lecture is absolutely amazing, and his show is phenomenal, so you want to check him out. Those are probably the best sources to start off. They're the ones that are going to kind of get you in on it and take you to the next level. The key thing with pickpocketing, honestly, and I'm not a great pickpocket. I can take a watch easily. That's not a problem. I can pickpocket a watch. Beyond that, I do a lot of pseudo pickpocketing. But the key thing is to practice, 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 and you're going to get burnt. If you're one of these magicians that are mortally afraid of getting busted, you're never going to be a pickpocket. You have to get caught a million times in order to get good at pickpocketing. If you're not happy to do that, then pickpocketing might not be a branch for you. Okay, so the next question is from Adrian Suter, who says, "Hi Craig, I'm a huge fan of Morgan & West. Not only their shows, but also their teaching, especially on character work. They've announced that they're stopping touring together and pursuing non-magical solo careers. So sad. Can you recommend another magician who did a Penguin Live or something that focused on character work?" Yeah, you're right. I saw this the other day and I'm gutted. I'm absolutely gutted. Morgan & West are my favourite double act of all time. I love Morgan & West. I think they're absolutely brilliant. But you know what? As somebody who was in a double act years ago, you go in your own direction. It looked like they left as friends, which is great. But, you know, it's best for them. They've made the decision. I would look at Griffin and Jones. They are, in my opinion, the natural successors to Morgan & West. I think those guys are awesome. You also want to look at how people like Richard Young and Sam Strange work together, and Carl and Dave work together, Penn and Teller, and there's some great double acts out there. But in terms of character work and focusing on character work, I always suggest the same person, Tom Crosby. Tom Crosby. No one does it better. It's Matt Wright taught Tom Crosby. You might want to look at Matt Wright's stuff as well, but Tom Crosby is the way to go as far as I'm concerned. I haven't seen Piff's new book, but Piff is obviously incredible at character work. Maybe you want to speak to Piff, or you want to have a look at his book as well. Yeah. That's what I would suggest. Okay, so the next question is again from Divishan Magician, who says, "I have an idea of doing a linking rings matrix where the rings teleport from four corners like a coin matrix, but they link as they join. Because I haven't thought of a method with moving them well without exposing the hole and the double flap on the table, yet it seems like a really cool idea that I somehow want to make work. So can you maybe do a creative process teaching if this is possible?" Yeah, I could think of a few ways of making this possible, but I would probably go down the route of using key fobs, because if you're doing a matrix and they're going underneath cards, you'd want to have them quite small. So I'd use like circular key fobs, the sort of thing that Jay Sankey used in Three Ring Circus from all those years ago, and I would have those link together as they come together, and depending on the matrix that you use, that would actually be quite easy to do. You might want to also look into Derek Dingle, the complete works of Derek Dingle. In the complete works of Derek Dingle, there is a very, very cool matrix that's not similar to what you're that's similar to what you're saying, but it's not the same thing. Derek Dingle has this routine where he tears a card into four, and he puts the four pieces on the table, and then he covers them up with other cards. And the first piece jumps, and now there's two there, but they're joined together. They're like restored, the two together. And then he does that, and now that one's jumped, but now it's three have restored. It's three pieces fused together. And the last one goes, and now it's a complete card underneath there. It's really good, really, really good. Now, you could apply the technique to that with linking rings, because I think the technique would work. You'd have to adapt it slightly, because obviously cards don't clink while linking rings do if you're using key fobs. But I would go down the use. My starting point for this, Divishan, would be to be using key fobs, circular key fobs, and I'd be looking initially at Derek Dingle's methodology and seeing if I could adapt his methodology from the complete works of Derek Dingle. That's probably the route that I'd go down first of all. Okay, so the next question is from Stephen Blair, who is an incredible magician, by the way. Hello, Stephen. Been thinking of ways to generate a reaction after you've left a table or a group, so essentially a magical moment happening when you aren't around. Have you come across any tricks like this? I'm not going to say anything. And the reason is I've actually got a video coming up in the next month, and it's 10 routines that you can use to get a reaction after you've left the table. So they think the trick's over, you've left them with something, but then it's going to elicit another reaction when they realize that something's happened. And I don't want to blow my load by going through all of this now when I've spent so long putting this video together. So it's in the editing stage at the moment, but as soon as it goes up, that is what you want to see, because I've been thinking about that exact same thing, and I've come up with 10 different ways of actually doing this, and I actually teach them all as well. So that's going to be dropping soon, so keep an eye on it. And Stephen, I hope you're well. And Divshan Magician says, can you do a full review on That Escalated Quickly by Harapan Ong? Yes, I will. I have seen you. I have heard you. I'm hoping to get it up in the next week or so. So keep looking out for it, Divshan. I promise it's coming. Okay, so the next question is from Andy Putz. Who says that I called him Jake last week. I'm very sorry. You are right. I was filming last week's Q&A at like midnight or something, 1 o'clock in the morning from Blackpool, and I've been working all day, so I'm very, very sorry. But question, right, here we go. What do you think is the perfect EDC for in your pockets or at a music festival as a visitor of the festival to show some organic magic tricks? For example, I have Orphic Plus, but I don't want to carry around a Sharpie with it at a music festival. The festival is working with their own square coins, if that helps. Do you have a recommendation for a pure EDC trick that's standard to have in your pockets for such an occasion? There was a trick that came out years ago, and it was incredible. And it was before I did Magic TV. And I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure it's by Magic Box. Maybe one of these wonderful people who follow Magic TV can let me know in the comments down below. And it used guitar picks. I remember that. It used guitar picks, and basically the whole idea is the guitar picks all had logos of bands on them. So you had like about 15 different guitar picks, and each one of them had a logo of a band on it. And you pointed out how you collected guitar picks, and you basically got them to eliminate down to one guitar pick, and you predicted the band they were going to pick at the very beginning. And I lost my picks, so I stopped doing it shortly after lockdown, or might have lost it in lockdown, I can't remember. But how I used to do it is I used to search for a name of a band on Google on the spectator's phone. So I'd Google the name of a band, and I'd find an image, and I'd give them the phone back, and then I'd go through this whole process. I'd take out the guitar picks, and I'd say, hey, I collect guitar picks. These are all my favorite bands. Have you seen any of them? I'd go through the process, which was very fair. You'd end up with one guitar pick, and then you would have them look at their phone, and you'd predicted the band that they picked. And what I found is also, and you could vary the band that they actually ended up being forced on. And I found that it would then be very, very easy to get them to think of an iconic piece of music from that band. And you could even like force the piece of music as well. So I still think that for a music festival, that's probably the best EDC you could have. You know, just have guitar picks in your pocket, you know, and just say, this is my guitar pick collection, and then just borrow the spectator's phone and you're good to go. I'm pretty sure it was definitely Magic Box. I'm 99% sure it was Magic Box. If you reach out to Magic Box and ask them, they can probably help you. I don't know if it's still available. Maybe you could get it somewhere, but that's where I would go first of all. I'd start off by going down that route. Okay, so the next question again is from Andy Put Magic, who says, do you know any tricks with music? I know Equalizer, and I like it very much. I also have the book, The Magic of Jonathan Friedman, the musical. What an amazing book that is that no one talks about. Yes, I did a review on that. That's amazing. I've forgotten about that. That's a great book. Do you have any more tricks about music? Equalizer is a good one. That book is amazing. Like I said, there's that guitar pick trick. On my new trick, the Mirage Deck project, there's a routine that I put on there called Movie, which is where I predict a movie that a spectator freely actually thinks of. So they go and they Google best films of all time or highest grossing films of all time on their phone, and you've predicted ahead of time the movie that they would actually think of. You could do that same thing with You could do that same thing very, very easily with. I'm just thinking, yeah, you could do you could do that same thing very, very easily with the best bands of all time, or the best music acts of all time, or the best musicians of all time, the best guitarists of all time. You could do that very, very easily. I'm just trying to think. I'm going through a bunch of different things in my head. So you could do that very easily. So you could have the deck given to somebody, say there's a prediction in there, have them Google the best bands of all time, have them think of one, and you can show your prediction matches, and they've never even said it out loud. So that's a really good way to go. Now, Kev G and Colin Klaus recently bought out bought out a Rubik's Cube trick, and it's a Rubik's Cube trick, and each one of the squares on the Rubik's Cube has got a letter on it. Cubify, it's called. And you basically have somebody think of a musician, and in the action of having this cube mixed up, you're actually able to show them that you knew ahead of time the musician they would think of, and you can do that a couple of times. You can do it over and over and over again. And that's really clever, and it's all based around music acts. Now, there's a couple of reasons you should look into this. The first is it's quite easy to do. It just uses one move that even if you've never done cube magic, Kev is going to teach you how to do everything. And you can have multiple. It's like a 2-hour project with multiple routines in there. So that's really good. But the other reason you should learn it is Kev teaches how to actually use Spotify to force a musician or a band, and he actually teaches you how you can actually do this inside Spotify. And I actually thought when I watched that was actually worth the price of the project alone, that you could very organically force the name of a band or the name of a celebrity or a piece of music through Spotify using your normal Spotify app. So Kev and it's Kev G, and it's, oh my gosh, why has my mind gone completely blank? He's an incredible magician, and I feel terrible I've forgotten his name. The guy that did Overdraft, Paul Fowler, that's it, Paul Fowler. So I remember thinking when I was watching that was really, really clever. So you could get that, Cubify by Kev Chi and Paul Fowler, and they have a bunch of different stuff with music on there that would be really great. The other thing that I would maybe consider looking at is some of David Jonathan's shortcut stuff. He's got a lot of things with shortcuts, and there's two that I would look at. The Black Mirror project is definitely one you want to look at, and the one before it, I'm trying to remember the name of it. Project. I'm trying to find out what it is. It wasn't Black Mirror. It was the one that he did before Black Mirror. What was it called? I want to get this right. I'm going onto his website so I can get it right. Synergy. That's it. Synergy. So Black Mirror project and Synergy. Synergy comes with a remote control with it as well, and gives you a whole bunch of options. Now, if you watch both of those, you're going to understand David Jonathan's approach to music. Not to music, sorry, to shortcuts. And there's a lot of shortcuts that he actually talks about over the Black Mirror project and Synergy that you could apply to music. So, for example, he's got this thing on Synergy that uses IMDb, and it's a shortcut that uses IMDb. With a little bit of thought, you could probably adapt that to musicians instead of films. On the Black Mirror project, he's got this thing where the lock screen changes to the thing that the spectator thinks of. I haven't tried that because I'm literally answering this off the cuff, but I'm pretty sure that you could adapt that to a musician as well. I think so you could literally have somebody name a musician or think of a musician, and then you could show your lock screen, and the lock screen has actually got a picture of that musician on your lock screen. I think that would be very, very possible. I haven't tried it, but I can't see any reason why it wouldn't. So there's a few places that you can start to look at. Talking about David Jonathan, I know he's recently gone to Penguin Magic to film a whole bunch of stuff, and he showed me some of the stuff he was filming at Penguin Magic, and one of the things he showed me is music based. It's completely music based. I remember turning around to him and saying I thought that was probably the best thing he ever created, and he showed it me over Zoom and fooled the ever-loving shit out of me with it. And I don't know that's coming out. I know he's filmed it with Penguin because he's back home now. I don't know how long it's going to take him for it to come out, but it's killer. It's killer. So any of those is where I would kind of start with. And I'll think about other options, but that's probably a good place to start. So there you go, guys. That's another video in the bag. That's another Q&A in the bag. Thank you once again for joining me right here on Magic TV. Now, don't forget, you want to see more videos like this, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. If you haven't joined the Netrix, please do so. It's www.thenetrix.com. Go check out the video from Friday night, because on Friday night, I put a video up and it was very good. Can't remember what it was about. It was about the Infinity deck, tricks with a regular deck of cards with the Infinity deck. Go check that out. Go check out the Talk Magic from Saturday. It was amazing. Go check out the review show special that's going up tonight. It's a very different one, and if it's the one that I'm thinking we're putting up, Ryland has joined me on that review show special as well. But I'll see you again soon. Thank you for the amazing questions. Don't forget to get your questions down below. I'll get to them next week. My name's Craig. Have an amazing Sunday. This is Magic TV.